So I've been drawing a lot of elephants and pigs lately. And it's not because I consider myself an artist, and it's certainly not because I have a particular affinity for tough-skinned mammals. No, I've been drawing elephants and pigs because my kids and I have been taking an art class from the one and only Mo Willems in our pajamas for free on the internet. And how did we get so lucky, you ask? Well, to quote Mo himself, you might be isolated, but you're not alone. You're an art maker. Let's make some together. The truth is, you have the same access that I do, because in this bizarro world we find ourselves in right now, virus and fear and uncertainty is spreading like wildfire. But you know what else is spreading? Radical generosity. What if I told you that your life, right now, is worth noticing? This is the Attention Collection. I'm Anthony Garcia. So in case you aren't familiar with Mo Willems, he's an author, an illustrator, an animator, and a playwright. His books have received #1 New York Times bestseller status. He's received a ridiculous amount of awards. His work has been translated into over 25 different languages. He's the artist in residence at the Kennedy Center. There are so many things that we could go on and on about, but that's not how I know Mo's work. I know Mo's work because my kids love it. They laugh out loud. They make me reread sections over again just so they can laugh some more. They love all the adventures of Piggy and Gerald the elephant, and let's be honest, I enjoy them as well. So when I found out Mo Willems was doing his part to help people cope during this time of isolation, he was opening his home for tours and stories and doodling instruction, I couldn't wait to share it with the kids. And every weekday, he answers question submissions from kids. He encourages them to explore their creativity, and he draws with them. He sits and draws with them, unguarded and generous. It's magical, but not because it's polished. It's not. It's unedited. It's raw, but it's inspiring. And normally I would say that's a rare thing. But society is proving otherwise right now. Yes, there are conflicts rising. There are fights over scarce resources. There are careless people putting others at risk. But that's only part of the story. So many people are showing up to spread hope and joy. Generosity is spreading rapidly. While we all have to remain informed, well, I think on some level that's very important, something magical happens when we unplug for a minute from the news cycle and dig into something else that's happening all around us. Every single day I'm seeing stories of people show up in radically generous ways. For instance, if you're on Instagram at all, you've probably heard tell or you've seen yourself DJ D Nice. Here's a high-profile DJ who's been turning hundreds of thousands of living rooms around the world into dance parties. When the quarantine first hit Los Angeles, he was at home and he was feeling cooped up like everyone else, but he decided to do an experiment. He set up his equipment and he turned on a webcam, and from his kitchen, he started streaming on Instagram. He DJ'd live for hours, something like 9 hours on a Thursday, and by Friday, he was playing music for tens of thousands of people. Now, here's a guy who's used to playing gigs at places like the White House, and I doubt he played them for free. And now he's opening up his kitchen to the world for no other reason than generosity, for no other reason than solidarity, than the gift of joy that comes from a dance party, from playing music, which brings people together. Or there's Tara Brach, a world-renowned psychologist and author and meditation teacher. Her message of mindfulness and wholeness is already in and of itself helpful. But when you add it to the chaos of this moment, to the uncertainty of this moment, her message rings a lot more true. And right now, she's opened up her sought after course, Mindfulness for Anxiety and Sleep, for free on Udemy. Now, this is a part of her income. This is a part of her profession, and she is giving it away for free right now to try to help people cope. And she also has a number of guided meditations you can find on her website and on YouTube for free. Or one of my favorite artists, Scott Erickson, was in the middle of touring his one-man show around the country when the coronavirus first hit, and it took over the United States. And his shows, which accounted for a huge chunk of his income, fell apart and dried up literally overnight. Now, that's a panic moment for a lot of people. And he's been very vulnerable and honest sharing his story in this time of the difficulty of navigating life without an income that you were relying on. It's already hard enough as an artist, but when you bring in this situation, the uncertainty of this moment, when even quote unquote stable jobs are in jeopardy, it's that much harder. And yet, he decided to release a taping of his one-man show for free on his website. Why? Because the message of this show is not giving up on yourself. He's not giving up on his art. He's not giving up on himself. And he wants to encourage other people, even in this moment, to not give up on themselves. And hopefully we won't give up on each other. What a gift. Or there are websites like BeSquare and weareteachers.com that have launched to provide free resources for parents who are trying to homeschool their kids right now. Trying to work from home as well as educate children. And we talked last week on the podcast about how grateful I think most of us are, if we weren't already, for teachers. How much we need them, how much we value them, and unfortunately, how unappreciated they have been. And I think we're waking up in this moment to see just how valuable they truly are. And I'm going to put links in the show notes to all of these resources, and I hope you'll use them. And if you don't need them, perhaps you know somebody who could use them, please share generously. And there are a number of generous gifts from notable figures and people in the public square that I could have shared on this podcast, and maybe I'll link them on social media or something at a later time. But the truth is, this radical generosity isn't limited to public figures and organizations. So many people are showing up generously to help. They're helping us all rise above this pandemic to the best of our abilities. And maybe it's not grandiose. Some of them are just simply offering a smile or just a glimmer of hope in this time. There are people who have been launching campaigns on social media to provide meals for medical staff and for first responders. Doctors and nurses have been coming out of retirement to provide support in this time of need. People in my home state here in Michigan have been decorating their homes to remind their neighbors that we stand together. Now, who cares about decorating your windows or your front door? Well, somebody who's looking out of the window wondering when they're going to get to live out in public again. To see that somebody next door cares about you. To see that someone else is offering a message of hope. A little rainbow painting on a front door can actually bring a needed smile to someone's face. It matters. Every simple act of generosity matters. Or something that never would have even been a blip on the radar. Maybe some crafter or somebody on Pinterest would have cared about this. But there are people who are creating videos to teach us how to make DIY hand sanitizer. Why? Because we can't get it in the store anymore, because it's flying off the shelves. There are virtual choirs that are forming on video chat services to sing songs of hope and resilience so that we can all listen. And we can't be together as one voice, but people are finding a way digitally to join one another, to build community where we can. If you look around, you'll see that generosity is spreading, and fortunately for us, it's highly contagious. Author and poet Khalil Gibran once wrote, "You give but little when you give of your possessions. It is when you give of yourself that you truly give." I don't know about you, but that rings particularly true in this moment, when there isn't really much we can give one another by way of possessions. But people are showing up generously these days and offering themselves, their time, their hearts, their resources. So I hope you've been the recipient of generosity during this time. I hope you've been inspired and lifted and loved. And I also ask this question: what about you? Are you showing up generously in this season? Are you giving of your most precious resource, which is to say, yourself? You have so much to offer in this moment, whether you realize it or not. If not now, when? Hey friends, just a quick announcement. Right now, if you share this podcast, you will be entered into a drawing to receive a bottle of hand sanitizer and 3 rolls of toilet paper right to your front door. And that's completely untrue, but wouldn't that be awesome? If you got something out of this, please feel free to share it, leave a review on Apple Podcasts, and if you aren't already, join us on Facebook and on Instagram, where this conversation keeps going. Until next week.